I ordered them from this guy from Acoma. I can never log. I don't know how I bring this every week. I can never log on. Are you ever on?
No, but mine shows no internet.
Yeah, that's.
I logged on at the house today, real easy, you know.
wasn't
But I
feel-
might be on
I wasn't feeling good today. Not.
my internet at home instead of here.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure which one I gotta,
I was gonna Zoom
I
in
asked,
tonight.
the guy on the left side of me, but he didn't pay attention. No, I'm just kidding. I know he doesn't.
I forgot to take my blood pressure this
Oh, no.
morning, but I wasn't feeling really chipper today.
Yeah,
People are very, more annoying than usual.
everybody.
So I left work at 2. I said, I got to get out of here before my blood pressure hits the roof.
I gotta take mine every morning.
That was yesterday.
Yeah, but you know what? I have mine in a little.
See another one of
case
these?
Monday, Tuesday, and I still.
I just sent you the
Yeah.
most recent one that you.
I don't know.
Here it is.
So I had to go to GCCS? Okay, thank you.
You can fix mine too?
Is this something that the technology department actually
Fix it?
connected to the secure site at one time? Let me see.
See, mine does the same thing. Mine says no internet.
Yeah, and at home, I'm okay. Are you
Yeah,
okay at
I'm
home
okay
too?
at home too. Doesn't like, technology does not like. Sometimes that's why I didn't dress up. Oh, wear my sweat and everything. I saw one of our principals walking down the road, not we, our assistant.
Mr.
principal.
Miller.
Yeah,
He's
he
a
walks that
principal
way.
at Blue Water.
Okay,
He brings the car.
and he walked.
He walks home. In the morning, he walks here early in the morning.
You know, that's shocking, but that's good exercise. I wish I could do that. Okay, let's not me turn my volume down.
Hello?
Okay, hi.
Okay, it works now.
Now I can hear you.
Mr. Pettis, do we have a quorum?
Yes, sir. We have a quorum.
Okay, now then I think I'll go home and abstain to the vote.
All right, Mr. Perez, members of the board, let's, one moment, please. Ms. Covey, would you take the roll, please?
Yes. Ron Ortiz,
Here.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Here,
Dion Sandoval,
Here.
Richard Jones,
I'm here.
Dr. Guy Archambault,
I'm here. Okay, let's call the meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance. Emily, would you do the honors, please? Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Meeting came to order at 5:33. Mr. Perez, are there any changes to the agenda? Board members, if any?
No, sir. Good evening, Mr. President, Board. I propose that we adopt the agenda as is.
Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda tonight.
Second.
A motion made by Ron Ortiz, seconded by Emily Hunt Daly to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those against, motion carries. Adoption of minutes, September 15th, 2020. Are there any changes to the minutes of September 2020, board members? If so, if not, Mr. Perez.
I recommend that we approve the adoption of the minutes for September 15th.
As presented.
so moved.
So moved by Emily Hunt Daly. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dion Sandoval to approve the minutes of September 15th as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, motion carries. Mr. Perez, recognitions.
Mr. President, Board, there's no specific person to recognize, but a lot of people working hard once again. I was out visiting some classrooms, and I just want to say, recognize all of the teachers and all the work that they're doing in the classrooms and all the creativity and the long hours they're putting in to make all of this work. That's what I have. Appreciate the teachers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The citizens to address the board. Mr. Perez, Ms. Colby, any citizens seeking to address the board?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, we have one person to address the board. Do you have the name? Do you have the paperwork on it? Okay, do you have the paperwork on that, Mr. President?
Okay, the name of the person?
Where's the president's notes? It should did you get the president's notes, sir?
C.L. Peterson.
Yes,
Mr. Peterson.
Mrs. Peterson, I believe.
Mrs. Peterson, I apologize. Mrs. Peterson, are you available?
Okay, oh, I just got a message that she's not going to be on, but she asked if we could read the message that she submitted.
All right, I will read the comment. It says, thank you for listening. The public enjoys being able to use the high school track if funded. Some who work during the week would like to access it on weekends. How can that be accomplished and when? Mr. Perez, you will take that under advisement with Vance Lee and the high school to respond to that, please.
Yes, sir.
And thank you very much, Ms. Peterson. 7, presentations. A, Early College High School.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, this evening, as we do have schools periodically share out where they're at, what they're doing, and all the good things that are happening at the school sites. In spite of all the challenges, we have Early College High School here with Principal Dr. Richard Eisenbard to lead this. You're on.
Councilor.
Good evening, Mr. President, Superintendent Perez, and members of the board. I want to thank you for this opportunity we have to present to you tonight. This is the first time I've done a board presentation virtual, so you probably heard a couple of them, but this is new for me. So I'm glad we had this opportunity to do so. Hopefully it works out to your benefit and information as well. We know you have a lot on your plate tonight, so we'll try to be concise. As you know, Early College High School is beginning the second year of operation. Early College High School is a small school, but we want to accomplish great things, big things. We expect a lot from our students. We expect a lot from ourselves, and hopefully that will come through in our presentation tonight. Our presentation is divided into two parts. The first part, one of our teachers, Coach Davidson, will introduce our staff and talk about who we are and what we represent. And the second part of our presentation, another one of our teachers, Ms. Claire McKenzie, will talk more specifically about a program that we have started this year and our expectations of students. So with all that being said, I'd like to hand over the presentation to one of our teachers, Coach Russell Davidson. So Coach, I see the slides, but I don't hear your voice yet.
Thank you, Delton. Thank you. Now, Mr. President, can you hear me?
Yes,
And can you see my slides, sir?
excellent.
Thank you so much. Dr. White, thanks for the introduction. We are the Dragons of Early College High School, and I hope this comes off as bragging because we have a lot to brag about and a lot to be thankful for. As you can see, our staff introduced here, really the glue that holds us together is Bernie Jeremiah. She's the everywhere spirit for us. Dr. Y stepped in with us in June and has been just absolutely a godsend. You know, we were fortunate to work with Mr. Lee in our first year of existence, and Dr. Y really just pegs it as an educational leader. We are 3 teachers deep. You'll get to meet Ms. McKenzie in a little while. Bonnie V. Hill is just an exceptional human being that also is an exceptional math teacher, and myself. This, I need to amend this slide, Mr. President. That number 14 is an error in amendment. We believed that we may have had a student transferring. We are currently at 15 high school freshmen, and we have been consistent with that throughout the year. We have 25 returning, what most people would call sophomores. That's kind of a moving target for us. They are second-year students in our program. I'm not one of those people that reads slides to other people, but certainly you can see who and what we are. This is a reasonably new process in American education and in New Mexico education. There are several successful programs going on throughout the state, and I believe that our program was patterned after best practices from those several programs. So our students are on track to get a 2-year degree and a high school diploma in the same week within 4 years. As mentioned in a previous slide, a lot of what we do is in partnering. We partner with New Mexico State University grants, and we partner with the business and civic community throughout Cibola County and all our distinct communities. The way that works in that triangle is that our community helps identify needs for careers to keep the economic ball rolling within Cibola County and to keep our student population on task for what is current for them. I believe everyone in your board and in the community knows how quickly economic shift, especially in insane times like we're living in now. But our community advises us well, and then working collaboratively with New Mexico State University and Grants, we provide these opportunities for our students. In addition to career pathways, and they refer to these as soft skills. You know, those of you, Ron, that have been in business, they may be harder skills than they are soft. But we spend a lot of effort in collaboration with NMSU Grants in developing the ideal traits in an employee. And you can see that list of traits there. But we don't just produce people that know stuff. We produce people that can keep a job and can stay in our community and can prosper and can raise happy, healthy children in our community and exhibit the traits of citizenship and professionalism that are required to do so. I'll let you look through that for a second, but the why on this is easy. You know, Cibola County is in transition again. We, all of us that are sitting here tonight, you know, and welcome Mr. Perez to Grants, but you've been in our area and you know Grants well from your experiences in communities around us. We have found ourselves in rather constant transition since the late 1970s, early 1980s. And often it seems like New Mexico and Cibola County in particular lose our best and brightest to opportunities outside Cibola County. The collaboration that we're able to work with between NMSU Grants and our business and civic leaders gives us as a community a chance to keep these great young human beings in Cibola County and provide the opportunities for them to raise happy, healthy kids in that community. Back scratching as it is, we also feel like that providing our best and brightest to our ever evolving economy in Cibola County helps us attract positive business role models and business leaders in housing their industries in Cibola County. We've seen that come true in the past, and it's our hope that we'll see it happen again within the 2020s. Our kids are exceptional, but in saying that, our kids are just good kids that do right things the majority of the time, and they're not any better than anybody else's kids. We're open to any first-time ninth grader throughout the district. And I've noted there that we say special consideration. We don't give special privilege, but we are always looking for that kid that's the first college student in their family. Ironically, many of us on our staff, myself included, were first-generation college hopefuls. And being able to pass that along to the youngsters throughout Cibola County in this ever-changing economic time is a real privilege. You know, in our note there, several studies continue to indicate that people who have any post-secondary education tend to be a little bit more successful economically. And what's better than that? They tend to spend their money better. You know, it doesn't take a fortune to raise a happy, healthy kid, as many of us have proved, but to be able to use those soft skills and use those employability skills to prosper from within is a big deal to us. Our students come to us as first-time ninth graders, and they spend a very vigorous, very rigorous ninth and part of their 10th grade experience in a single year. Our courses are not any better than anybody else's courses, but we're delivering our courses to a highly motivated audience. And we happen to be a small and highly collaborative and challenging faculty. We push each other hard. In the second year, we begin to share with NMSU grants. And I'll give some credit here in just a minute to those people and how they help us develop these career pathways and keep our kids on task to achieve a lot in 4 years. The partnership starts with us. I thanked Dr. Y, and I'm going to thank him again. He makes it really easy for us to challenge each other, challenge ourselves, and we have all the resources anybody could ever ask for and all the encouragement to get better at what we do every day. We also work intensely with NMSU grants. Here's a thanks ahead of time, but Dr. Toivanen, who's the interim designee at NMSU grants now, has bent over backwards to help us get our kids working on career pathways and making every resource available to them. And then we're proud to work with the community and the civic and business leaders within. I noted it last, but it is one of our most important traits. We are a small population. We are an intense population, and our parents are real deal parents. I think we have parents that every high school teacher hopes for, and these are parents that are appropriately involved in the daily routine with their kids' education, but they're also better than cheerleaders at home. They push their kids hard and they assist their kids well. I've said thank you several times, but we have to say thank you again. NMSU grants puts us in a fabulous environment. The sound quality in our classrooms, we have carpeted classrooms with state-of-the-art equipment, and it's a dream come true as a teacher to work in an environment like we're in. I have thanked NMSU several times and will thank them again for all of the extra efforts they have. Our kids have full-time advisement, both through high school counseling that we share with Grants High and with an advisement team at NMSUG. So thank you, thank you, thank you. There's more to our presentation, but this is the part where anybody that's got a question needs to ask. The floor is open.
Mr. Perez, members of the board, thank you very much for that presentation. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Mr. Perez, we're halfway done, sir.
Okay, thank you. You can proceed.
Thank you so much. So as I make this transition, I know that all of you as educational leaders are helping us light our way through this extraordinary time. What's happening to us is that we're seeing problems that have been inherent in our society, in every institution that's in the news, and certainly in education for quite some time. This model is a simple drivetrain in an automobile, and you can follow your way through that. But I highlighted the word clutch, and you mentioned it earlier, Mr. Perez, that teachers within our system actually are the clutch. And how that clutch is managed can either stall the engine, move the vehicle, or let the engine blow up while the engine spins without purpose. And so I need to appreciate my colleagues throughout the district and certainly my colleagues within the building. But with that thought in mind, the word becomes engaged. And that's something we do best at Early College High School. We think hard and challenge each other hard about how to deliver a virtual education and keep our kids engaged. It's a challenge all over the country. One sample is how do you teach a PE class in ninth grade on a computer? Well, first off, each of our students, and I'm very proud to say, each of our ninth grade PE students averaged 3,000 steps using technology and a step counter on a cell phone, averaged 3,000 steps a day throughout August. They averaged 5,000 steps a day throughout September, and they're averaging 7,000 steps a day in October. Realize that our students come from every single community in Cibola County. We've got farm kids, we've got city kids, we've got kids that work with animals, and we've got kids in sports, and we've got kids that are experts in lots of things. But they do huff and puff daily, and that's appreciated. The other thing that we've added is a Tai Chi course that we're offering to our students for free. And this focuses on the benefits that have been shown throughout studies in Tai Chi, offering stress reduction, which is a major deal for a high school kid in these times, and offering soft skill flexibility and soft skill muscle tone development. And as I indicated, our kids are hardcore engaged in some really good processes. One of the other things where we overlap, and this goes from what looks like simply sports to a mathematics problem today. We asked our students to create an equation based on how many games a team has to win in the championship series, which is referred to as a best of 7 in the language arts arena. So our students actually concocted an equation that says 7 games divided by 2 teams equals 3.5, and we round that up to 4 games. We invited you a year ago today to our poetry slam at NMSU Grants a year ago. This year, obviously, all of that activity has to be virtual, but our kids are performing for the public and interacting with the public on a special Google Classroom presentation October 28th. This is hands-on, it's dress up, it's good for little kids, good for big kids, and by the way, you're invited. With that, dear friends, I want to introduce you to one of the best and brightest and one of the great programs that Dr. Y has helped us facilitate. My colleague, Claire McKenzie, is about to walk you through our Introduction to Engineering Design brand new course. So Claire, take it over and I'll change the slides for you when you're ready.
I tell you what, I want to jump in here for a second. If Delton or Coach Davison could give me back to my live camera, I want to do a little bit of show and tell here. So could we pause the PowerPoint and get back to a camera? Here we go. All right, I think we're good. This will only take a minute, but I just want to show you this. It's a plastic spinner. I call this my $2,000 plastic spinner because this is the first artifact or first thing we produced out of our 3D printer. So when you calculate the cost of the equipment and the supplies, the first one cost $2,000. Now we're making more things with the production costs going down, but we have a 3D printer we're using in an engineering class, and that was the first thing we made from that printer. But just give me a minute or so, and I want to show you a few other things. Around our school and around the district, we have implemented some Project Lead the Way programs. And the program we have here is engineering. Other schools have computer science essentials and other computer science courses and some gateway science courses to introduce some career pathways, because that's what we're all about. CTE, career technical education, is about developing career pathways and providing good opportunities. So this is a sample of a robotic start that one of our courses will be working with. The course is really well supported. This is not coming through okay, but I just want to say that we, through Project Lead the Way, funded by a Perkins grant, we are well supported. We have drills from that, drill bits, got a screwdriver set. We got various clamps and tools and whatever. Electronic testers and equipment. And we got a coffee pot. So what's a coffee pot doing in this deal? It's not for extra breaks. What this is, and with other things, our engineering class, as part of their curriculum, is going to take this thing apart in what they call a reverse engineering mode and see how it works, reverse engineering. So we got a coffee pot as part of the deal. So, you know, there is more, but it's not coming through okay on screen. I'm not coming through real well on screen. I realize that. So I just want to warm you up to show you a little bit about what we are pursuing, what we're trying to instill in the curriculum of our kids, even in a virtual sense. Now, obviously, this was meant to be hands-on interaction, but now Claire, and I'd like to revert back to PowerPoint, Miss McKenzie is working with our engineering program, and we're doing, I think, some pretty creative things, even in a virtual environment. So let's get the rest of the PowerPoint going, and then Miss McKenzie, then it'll be all yours.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this is, it's called Project Lead the Way, a nonprofit, and they have built a program of different aspects of, I guess, scientific careers. So this is a short description of what's going on at the early college high school for us. Their approach is called the APB Approach, and it's basically, they start with an activity, with activities that build into a project, and then from there, they take that project and apply it to a real world situation. And so the kids, through the activities in the project, they gain knowledge and they gain skills to deal with these real world problems. Okay, next slide. So this is kind of the goal that we had set for them. It is a year-long course, but talking with the master teacher in my professional development for the core training, we can do this in this 4 units in 1 semester. And the 4 units basically are several different lessons. And let me see, what did I have here? And the lessons take several days. So it's a total of 15 lessons in the 4 units, but it covers over 120, 130 days. So it's really, there's a lot to do. The students are going to gain experience using the engineering design practices as they work through it. Right now, we're doing it individually and not as a team because of the remote learning. What's really nice is Project Lead the Way, or PLTW. It has made adjustments to the curriculum so that kids can do the projects remotely. Some of the projects we don't get to do hands-on, but we're still able to do most of them through that, through their curriculum. They're also going to be gaining knowledge in the areas of engineering and professional ethics, the design process, technical sketching and drawing, measurement and statistics. So all of these things are infused within the project. So when a student sits down, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to log into their account. It is a student account with the organization. And so they first come up on this page, which is their course landing page. And you can see there are, there's actually 4 units. You only get to see 2, but you have a getting started section, a distance learning, and a skills for success. And of course, the 4 units are, the first one is design and problem solving. That's the basics of learning how to work through the design process. And then assembly design, where they create using the 3D, the CAD program to create an object made up of several parts, and they learn how to connect those parts in the drawing, and even sometimes you can include movement in the parts. So that's really neat for them. Unit 3, it's not on there. is thoughtful product design, where we talk about the ethics, the aesthetics, and those kind of concepts as they go through the design process, to think of their projects. How can they solve a problem in an environmentally friendly way? And then the last thing is making things move, where they actually incorporate a motor into their designs. Next slide. Okay, so the getting started portion just tells the students about the features within the curriculum. There's highlighting, there's adding notes, there are text boxes where they can type into, this is all in the curriculum, they can type into the text boxes, and usually it's the curriculum is asking what are their thoughts, what are their ideas in regards to brainstorming the solution of a project, or even the reflection. What did you do? What did you do well? What could you improve on? And those sort of things. The pages also, you'll note at the top, has a little print icon. If they wanted to, they could print these out so that they can save the pages and have something hands-on. And then of course, there's the search bar to search for a term throughout the curriculum. Next slide, please. The course is about self-reliance. And so the students here, these are the soft skills they need to learn as they move into different work environments, specifically the kind of a teamwork environment. They need to learn to communicate with each other. They need to learn how to troubleshoot technology and learning, and they're really doing a lot of that right now. They need to learn how to manage time. So the projects are, they're given a timeline, so they need to learn how to work within that timeline. Thankfully right now they're motivated because they're really interested in the CAD drawing and the project that we're doing right now, and they are working from home. Next slide, please. So right now we're currently in Unit 1, which is Design Basics, which is the design process. It is Lesson 1-2, Visualization and Solid Modeling. And the project is called Charmed, I'm Sure. And so what they're supposed to do in this project is they are to create a charm or a luggage tag for their client. So they step into the role of designer, and so they work through the process of creating this charm. You can go to the next page, please. So what they do is they're going to define the problem, and they complete a design brief doing that. They talk with their client and say, well, what do you like? What are you interested? They also have some constraints given. It can only be a specific volume because we're using plastic filaments. So we have to kind of be aware of that. They will come up with 3 concepts and present this to their client, and the client will look those over, making sure that they follow the criteria and the constraints, and then they develop a solution. And all of this is done with with collaboration with the client. So they're going to create a 3D model of the charm design. Okay. So where I come in is because it's remotely, they send me the charm design, and I put it into a program form, a file form where the 3D printer can print this. And then I send it back to them, and then they can test it with their client by giving the charm to the client, and the client can try it out and see how it works. And then at the end of this, they're going to evaluate that solution. The iteration is going to happen. And then finally, once we've come to completion with their project, then they give a 1-paragraph proposal to me, and they present that. They're going to have to read that to me. So this is an isometric sketch that one of my students submitted, and it does have, sorry about the blurriness, I didn't realize it was so blurry. It has the different viewpoints. It's got a front view and a right side and the top, and then the isometric sketch. So they present this on kind of like, on this one, it's the orthographic. They have to learn the terms for the types of graph paper we're using. Next one, please. And so this young lady, what she did was she took her charm design and made a 3D model of it using Onshape. This is the website.
Ms.
Okay.
Ms.
Yes.
McKenzie, I was watching the sketch, so the students don't actually make a product. What they do is they send the sketch to the business, and then from their sketch, they're the ones that make the model to see if
Oh,
it
so, no, so I am like I'm the one that manufactures their design, their 3D design. So this young lady created the 3D model using a CAD program. This is a website. They have to create their own student accounts. And then go to the next slide, please. So then once they've done that, they send me the order and I'm the printer. So I basically input that CAD design into a program which puts it in levels. I forget what it's called. There's a term for it. It basically puts it in strips or layers. And then the machine itself will read that program and then print out the plastic in layers. So this is the first layer that it's setting. The outside rim, if you notice, it is basically to make sure that the filament is feeding appropriately, so it gives it some time. So it gives the nozzle time to create a consistency in the feed of the filament onto the printing surface.
So let me jump in here a second.
Yes.
Go back to that previous slide, if you would. You know, this is really exciting for us. This, you know, right now we have this is the picture of our 3D printer. Right now our 3D printer is only has a single color feed. You can kind of see it on the left side. There are 3D printers that have multicolor feeds. We can do multicolor, but we have to stop and start the printer at various times. So it's possible, but right now we have a single color printer. You know, we are willing, if the board would like, to purchase a multicolor 3D printer. The low end of those cost about $5,000 or $10,000. High end costs about $50,000. But if the board wants to buy one for us, we will certainly accept that. So I know the board has other things to do. See if we can wrap up in 1 or 2 minutes.
Okay, we're almost done. So the 3D model has been, it's been layered, and so it's been put in the 3D printer, and this is her prototype. So she's going to take the prototype to the client and have the client try it out, and then from there they can make their adjustments. Next slide, please. Okay, so they do a project reflection, and this is taken from the curriculum. I didn't make any changes to it. I thought this is what you could see, what type of reflection they have to go through. So they're going to reflect on the work and consider the ways that the final product or process could be improved. Next slide, please. They're going to review the modeling overview resource, and the modeling overview resource really just hits on these different topics: type of model, what was the purpose of the model, what were the limitations, and why did you choose this model? Why was it used in this circumstance? And then finally, they just review their goals. Did they follow the constraints? Did they follow the criteria? And then what did they learn from the experience? And how, let's see, what did you learn during this design experience that would inform the company's plan to develop a process? So a design. So really they're just learning to work at using the design process and how it works. In the classroom, this would have been a pair working together as a team. Later on, the projects become bigger, and so they work in groups of 4. So this is really just teaching them how to work together as a group. And so it's been, at this point, the kids have really, you know, they're learning a lot, but again, the remote learning is a challenge for us. Thank you very much. Any questions?
To continue with my question, I'm trying to grasp, I saw the item that Dr. Eisenberg held up, and it's a plastic, and that's a plastic luggage tag.
Okay, so the one he's holding up was just a file that came with the printer. And so I had to learn how to prepare the programs or the drawings into the printer, but this is a 3D model that came with the printer software. So I thought, let me print one thing first and see how it looks. And so this is a fidget spinner.
Okay, so when you refer to the word print, they're building that. inside.
Right. So the
Okay.
way that the printer works is it puts, it takes the 3D model, it slices it. It slices it into different levels. So these are 2mm slices that are being printed. So from the luggage tag, this is the base of the luggage tag. There's going to be several passovers with each layer that's being laid down onto that plastic. And so it adds each layer, it adds to the thickness.
Do you go out and seek markets for these charms, as you call them?
Well, right now the kids it's a design process. So it's kind of like a fictitious, project where they are the designer and their client at this point is either a friend, a family member, an acquaintance, whoever they want to choose as their client. And so it's teaching them how to learn to collaborate with the client.
Okay, so as they complete this CAD project, do they come out with a license or a certificate that says they can do this? And then is that a marketable skill? Do you help them find a job with this?
I can help answer that question.
Thank you.
The engineering pathway is a series of courses. This is just the introduction. And then second class, if they choose to continue, they'll branch out into more specific areas that they're interested in. And yes, if they complete the whole career pathway, it comes with a certification that is marketable. But this is just class one, introduction to engineering. So they got a ways to go yet.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenbart. Claire,
Thank
it was
you.
an excellent presentation. We will be looking forward to more charming things that you guys are going to be creating. And Mr. Pettis, we may continue on with the next agenda item.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Eisenbart and team. I look forward. I know this is just the intro class, but I do look forward to in the future classes or the more advanced classes that we can see the students take the entire project from the CAD design to the file form. And I know that that's probably in the works, but I would be really excited to see the students follow it all the way from the beginning to the end of it. So appreciate it.
I guess this question is for Mr. Pettis. Do they have money in their budget to buy this high-end printer?
We didn't budget for it this year, but we'll definitely look into I have no idea what the cost is and things like that, but we can discuss that outside of this meeting.
Okay, I was just trying to get a plug in there for you, Dr. Y. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Pettis, B, first read, Policy Advisory 209.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board, we have this evening, and we're not acting on this, but just a first read of Policy Advisory 209. And this policy involves the eligibility, considering that we're in a remote situation. So if you have any questions, it's the first read. Or if you'd like a quick overview, we have Dwayne Toivanen on.
Please.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Pettis. So as Mr. Pettis said, this is the first read of Policy Advisory 209 from the New Mexico School Boards Association dealing with extracurricular activity and eligibility. This is a result of the Attendance for Success Act. If you recall, we had revised one of our previous policies based on that. This one just entails some minor revisions on the eligibility, specifically just that for a student to be eligible in extracurricular activity, they have to have at least a 2.0 on a 4.0 scale, and with attendance that they can miss no more than 15 days per semester or miss 15 days in a particular course in a semester. Just a side note, this does not apply to students receiving level C or D level special education services. So it is recommended that we'll bring this to another board meeting, but I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Mr. Trevette, is this going to be a lasting policy change, or is it just to handle the current pandemic situation we're in?
Thank you, Ms. Daly. For now, it is to help, as I stated, it's part of the Attendance for Success Act that deals with remote learning models. I don't foresee that it'll change once school resumes. However, that'll be based on statute. So if statute does change regarding that, we will be bringing that to your attention.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Perez, action items.
Okay, Mr. President, Board, first action item is consideration approval for reentry proposals. And I'd like to share some information.
Before we do that, let's kind of overview what we're going to do with this. First of all, you will make an overview, and the board can ask any questions that they desire during that time. And then once we're through with that, then we would be ready for a motion. And once we get a motion and a second, we'll probably have another final discussion of the motion, and then after that, we'll have a roll call vote. So Mr. Pettis, let's go ahead and have you do the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. President, board members, community members, everybody out and with us this evening. We've had those of you who've been following closely, we've had a lot of meetings, a lot of work, surveys, so on, and that led up to tonight to make our first major decision as far as taking a route forward for the students. So right now I have to let you know that the state does not allow any secondary students back at this time. The state is allowing up to 50% in the pre-K through 6 areas. What overrides the 50% number is the social distancing. As long as we can keep the students 6 feet apart, then we can be ready to service them. This evening, I'm not going to go through the entire presentation as we've gone through that several times with several different groups.
Yeah. Enable editing.
Where's it at? Is it? Aren't you seeing the screen?
No, stop sharing.
Okay.
Stop sharing. And then go to the document. Enable editing.
That's where, wasn't I there?
And then now we can.
Okay, everybody see that now?
Mm-hmm.
No.
And then share.
That's what I wrote. That's where I was.
Yes.
Can you see it? Okay. So right now, state's only allowing pre-K through 6, up to 50%, 6 feet distancing overrides all the other. I started to say that we're not going to do the full presentation tonight in detail, as we've done that several times before the board and many stakeholder groups. We've done many surveys. So I hope that everybody realizes that all the people who have worked on this have tried to keep to a common sense, logical, steadfast, straightforward, moving through this carefully. You know that there's other districts, schools throughout the state that have started a few weeks ago. We're watching them, seeing how things are going. There's some successes, some challenges, as we would expect. But after all of the discussions and after all the work, it boils down to the information that I'm going to put in a nutshell here. So I have a very short slide to keep me on track to make sure that I share the final summation of the information in a concise manner. So recap, we started about March 10th when the schools closed, our plan began. We got a reentry team together and we worked with many different authorities, including the PEDs, Department of Health, CDC, and local area health officials, contacted officials from the state and so on. So then we developed, school sites and departments began to develop steps, plans, and details for every area that we could possibly think of. And we tried not to leave any leaf unturned, so to speak. We did meet with the Laguna Pueblo, Pueblo of Acoma, Navajo Nation, and we did talk with them and try to get as much information as we could from those stakeholder groups as well as others. We had a series of surveys that many of you participated in throughout the summer and up to date. Some of those were directly asked questions from the teachers, principals to the families and parents. And then we led up to our town hall meeting that we had last Thursday. So with that, it boiled down to two proposals for the remainder of this semester through December. And I'll go through this quickly. The proposal A, students will remain in a total virtual remote learning model through December. Proposal B, students in grades pre-K through 6, again, those are the only students allowed, will move into a hybrid model beginning Monday, October 19th, 2020 through December 2020. I have to constantly remind everyone that even if a decision is made to bring students back to the hybrid model, parents and families still have the choice to remain on the virtual remote model at all times throughout the school year. This is just a visual of what I just talked about. Once again, proposal A, 100% virtual. Proposal B, the district will remain in a hybrid model, grades pre-K through 6 through the remainder of the semester. This means that we're not forcing, pressuring, asking harshly that parents bring the students back, but those parents and families that choose to send their students back, if this model is chosen, our schools and our staff will be here to service them through that model. Now, when you say 50%, that could be a little bit misleading. 50% doesn't mean half the students get to come and the other don't. 50% means that's as many as we could have basically on campus at a time. The model that we've showed throughout the last few months is that if it's a 50% true model, group A, which could be 50% of students, for example, could come to school on Monday, Tuesday. Group B could be the other 50% of students that will come to school on Thursday, Friday. The remainder of that time does not mean that students have a day off or teachers have days off. It just means that that half of the week will be done virtually and 2 days would be done face-to-face for those families and students that choose to go that route. To put some perspective on it, we're here at this board meeting October 6th. And if it's chosen that we go to the option B, I've highlighted the areas of the actual days that we have remaining in this semester, this second quarter. So it will start on the 19th. There's 4 days there. And if you count all of these days that we're talking about, by the time you count out Thanksgiving and go into the Christmas break, we're talking about 36 days of instruction for the second quarter. So that's just to make sure that we got that information. That's the number of days that we're talking about. I'd also like to add that whatever the decision is, I would also like to bring this back to have a decision for the January semester. We know things change a lot, but I'd like to have the decision made for January before we break into the Christmas break. So I'm going to go through some considerations for both sides. We have some things to consider on the remote side, and we have some things to consider on the face-to-face side. And I'm going through the pros and cons of both, just to make sure that we generate some good thought and make sure you know that we have looked at a lot of areas. Total remote learning. Problems with the remote learning. We have a low academic engagement. I think many teachers and principals can attest to that. Achievement gaps. They're continuing, and I'm guessing we don't have the test assessment data yet, but I'm really concerned about the achievement gaps growing and not narrowing. Lack of socialization. We all have talked about that. We know about it. We're experienced it. Social emotional concerns. Anxiety, depression, we hear about. We're doing as much as we can with counselors, but it's still an issue. We see issues of some supervision at some homes. Daycare continues to be an issue. And we all know that remote learning is not the most effective delivery mode for instruction. On the other side of the remote learning, we're looking at the health and safety of staff and students. One of the positives that we're gaining, teachers are gaining confidence and expertise with remote learning. Many have become experts in remote learning in a very short time. Students' ability to learn and use new technology is skyrocketing. The flexibility of learning environments for staff and students is definitely there where it's not in a real world face-to-face. The remote learning so far has given our district an opportunity to learn from other districts and other states that have already engaged in this. So the hybrid model, and looking at both sides of the hybrid model, daycare again is a challenge. Higher risk of exposure and spreading that we all hear about, talk about, learn about. Complexity of teaching strategies and classroom management. Things that we're learning, maintaining proper social distancing, the infrastructure and maintenance, transportation, food services, and the costs and mobilization of these things is things that we contend with. Achievement gaps and academic challenges as it is with both sides of this. Some of the positives about hybrid learning is we have that student-teacher connection. And we have some face-to-face direct instruction, which we believe, and I think everyone knows, is the most effective model of academic instruction. The social-emotional benefits, less frustration and anxiety, a sense of normalcy. Students get to actually go to school, and easier to manage home and childcare situations. It will alleviate some of the issues. Other considerations that I know that everyone's thought about, what about the potential spikes? We watched the trajectory from last week to this week, things change. Facility readiness, we're working on that, and we'll share a little bit about where that's at. Cost factors, the executive orders that we have complied with and respect from the governor in New Mexico, Pueblo of Laguna governor Herrera, Pueblo of Acoma governor Valle, and the orders that they keep on the land, we respect that and their efforts to keep their communities as safe as possible. The other considerations, the intermingling and events throughout the holiday season. It's something else that we've thought about, think about. We do watch the up-to-date New Mexico public health information. This is the website, and I just pulled some of the charts off, and this is up to October 4th, which is 2 days ago. This is a cumulative number of cases. We have to be careful that this isn't too misleading. This is an accumulation. In other words, it's not a spike, but I think it's just a growing number of cases in Cibola County. We hate to talk about this, but there's also a cumulative number of deaths, and up to date, as you can see, the numbers are above 20 in our county. Cumulative number of tests up to October 4th, and you can see that number is approaching 25,000. Again, this is data that's 2 days old, and we should get a newer report in the next 2 days, but you can see the trend on all of these. So with that information and all the information we've been providing throughout the last few months, we know that there's many people that have very strong feelings about this decision on both sides. We like to keep the administrators I've been working with. Once again, we like to stay logical. As I've always said, there's not a perfect decision, but working together as a community, we will make the best decision. So with that, Mr. President, I turn it back over to the board.
Mr. Pettis, I have a question.
Mr. Dion. Just keep those slides there in the event that any of the board members want to refer back to them. Dion.
Yeah, Max, how's the absenteeism?
Yes, sir. Mr. President, board member Dion, the absenteeism is a problem, and it is, as I mentioned at the last week, we were looking at 19% absenteeism at most schools in average. That matches what the rest of the state is going through. It's not acceptable. I know that there are some days that's a little bit worse and some days just slightly better. I know that I was at Los Alamitos today and talking to Principal Sanchez. They're making some good headway there as far as getting students back to school. But it's a major challenge, Mr. Sandoval. I'm glad you brought that up because that is one of our concerns with this change with the remote model.
Yeah, I got a follow-up question with that. Okay, with that, I hear from some parents that they're getting put on contract now, because of their students logging on and getting off immediately, going 10 minutes into the class and they're getting off. So what's the fix? Do we have a fix?
Yeah, so I brought that up with several administrators in the district. There is the way that this all started in going into the remote model is we didn't want to chip away at our structures that we've worked so hard to build as far as consequences and benefits of our attendance structure. So in essence, we have kept our same attendance policies and procedures throughout this change. And as you're noting here, it may not be the fit. We may have to finally change our attendance policies and procedures because we do keep the 3-day, 5-day, 10-day letters. And then if they're not abiding to that, we're coming up to some harsh, difficult decisions. I know that some principals have had to contact CYFD, contact the the authorities, not just for a consequential thing, but to check on these students and see are they okay. But I'm seeing both sides where we're not sure what is the consequence if you're not attending school. The consequence can't be kicking them out of school.
And that was my thing. Are they contacting CYFD? And if so, are we going to get to the point that where you have to expel the children? Like I said before, you have 6th graders and 7th graders that are at home with their 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade siblings, and they're basically raising them because the parents can't afford daycare or they're at work. So there's a lot of struggles with the working class.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And we are moving forward. And yes, to answer, at least to clarify, we have had some instances where we have contacted the CYFD. We've already had some instances where we've contacted the police department because, you know, it's a law and we're obligated to follow that law of the mandatory attendance to school until you're the age of 16. And we take that seriously.
No, and that's understandable.
Board members?
Yeah,
Questions?
just one last question.
Dion?
Are the facilities, are we prepared? Are we ready? You know, do we have enough PPE equipment? Do we, you know, are we ready? And our facilities, are they ready, you know, to move forward if we decide to go with a hybrid? That's HVAC systems, that's, you know, a little bit of everything.
Yes. So we shared a little bit last week, but I've got some updates for you, and I'm glad you asked that because I'd like for Mr. Vansley to share some on the filtration. And then I'd also ask Mr. Maldonado or Mr. Hernandez to share some on the PPE. So Vance, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board, Mr. Pettis. We understand the concern regarding HVAC systems and the direction that the New Mexico PED put out regarding MERV 13 filters. Since then, they have actually have backed off of that a little bit in the sense that they threw the MERV 13 deal out there without asking a whole lot of school personnel around the state. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that's problematic. But across our 11 school sites in the district, we operate many different HVAC systems, unfortunately, from refrigerated air systems using outside air to refrigerated air systems using return air or recirculating the air, ground source heat pump. We use gas-fired heat, swamp cooling, boiler, cooling towers, heat exchangers, and then ductless mini splits. And it depends. Some of them use return air, some of them use directly outside air. And there's going to be an importance here why I'm talking about return air and outside air. With many of these systems, specifically those with return air capability, a minimum efficiency reporting value, which is MERV, of 11 or 13 filter will not allow adequate airflow without damaging the equipment. That's where the problem lies, is when you have return air, those fans and those motors are trying to push that air out of the room and back through the system. And with an 11 or a 13 MERV filter, there's just not the capability to push that volume through that space and get it through the system. And so it's wear and tear, but more than that, it just really wears down the motors and the fans themselves. Through our research and working with our HVAC contractors that we work with, really a better option is a polarized UV light system, which not only filters the return air, but the UV light kills 97% of remaining virus, bacteria, and mold particles. This is accomplished while allowing normal airflow in the system, thus not placing the undue strain on the equipment. Based on that industry standard, this form of filtering exceeds the New Mexico PED requirement as it actually kills viruses, bacteria, and mold, rather than just trapping it in a tighter filter, if you will. Lastly, I'll just make a statement here. A system utilizing only outside air and exhausting the inside air directly back out into outside, it really doesn't require filtering, as you're pulling air directly from outside and you're not recirculating any contaminated air that's inside of the building. So that's where we are with that right now. As far as the state is concerned, they still do want the MERV 13 filters if you can put them in your systems. And there are possibilities within some of our systems that we could do that, but vast majority of our systems could not handle an 11 or a 13. In that instance, the state has said, well, let us know the highest level of filter that you can put in your system, and then we'll work with you according to that. Really, what in our discussions, the polarized system, which acts like a magnet, attracting those particles, and then running those particles by a UV light, that actually kills a virus, bacteria, and mold rather than just trying to trap it. So we're really looking into that technology. It's a very quality technology, and but that's where we're at right now based on the many systems that we have.
So Vance, with that, are we ready to start with the issues we have? Or do we have to fix some of these issues that are out there?
We're working with our contractors right now to get those in place as quickly as possible. They've been very good working with us to try to have that ready as soon as possible.
Vance, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to help answer that question if I could.
Okay.
Mr. President. So yes, the question, are we ready to start? We're meeting all the requirements of the state, to our knowledge, and we do have the checklist. I think I shared a copy of that in the board packets. But so even as we are right now, we can technically begin on October 19th and meet the requirements of PED. However, we want to go above that, and we want to make sure that we have even better filtration systems before that date. So we're looking at putting in a lot of work by October 16th. In either case, we are meeting the requirements to enter. And yes, as far as the checklist, we do have a checklist that we've completed already. That checklist is turned into the state. And before, if a decision is made to bring any students back, the state will do an on-site visit and they will go through that checklist with us at all the schools and the district.
Thank you, Mr. Perez and Vance.
Emily, you got any questions?
Yeah, Ron kind of alluded to that, and I know that we're trying to, we don't want to say, yeah, we're gonna start October 19th, and then we find a problem in our HVAC system or our filterization, and then say, psych, we're gonna start next week. So just a more affirmative answer, Mr. Lee, Mr. Pettit. Are we certain that we are going to prepare to start school on October 19th? I don't want yeah, perhaps, or I don't want 25%, we're ready to go. I want 100% that says we can bring in our kids to a school that is going to keep them safe. There's no percentages other than 100% that I think is going to be acceptable to parents as well as to staff. So I'm looking, I mean, 100% is probably an impossibility, but I want to get as close as to that 100% as possible. So I leave the question back up to you, Mr. Lee, Mr. Perez. Assure me that we're ready to do that.
I will, Ms. DeLeon, Mr. President. With everything that I know, I'm 100% sure that we meet all of the requirements of the Public Education Department today.
That's what we want to hear.
Did you concur, Mr. Lee, with all the stuff that you talked about, burning out our HVAC system, and we continue to implement the filters that the state is requiring?
If I can clarify, Mr. Lee, Mr. President, I think if I can help clarify, Mr. Lee was not suggesting that our HVAC systems are burnt out or anything. What he's talking about is we don't want to put in filters that will burn our HVAC systems out. So we've had to work through a whole lot of different scenarios originally, when the state first came out, and a lot of districts and boards and superintendents are really upset because we thought that it was, the Band-Aid was MERV 13 filters in every system, no matter what. But when they got the pushback and says, no, your systems will not handle it. Your motors will not force, your motors will break down trying to force that much air through those thick filters. So therefore, it would have been counterproductive. We would have created more air quality problems with that than we will with our current MERV 8 and MERV 9 filters. I need to just clarify that when I say today, I mean that we have some MERV 8s. We are in the process of moving those to MERV 9s, which are acceptable by the state. When that's done, and it should be done in the next few days, we're ready to go as far as air quality. The only other recommendation by the state and by the Department of Health is that we leave doors and windows open as much as possible. If there's anything else that we can do that's within our reach, we will do it. And I have to tell you that we're going above and beyond. When we start talking about these ultraviolet technology, that's not a recommendation by the state. That's the above and beyond effort that we're going through, that we're working towards as a district, above and beyond their basic requirements.
And that's what I was looking for, Max. You hit it right on when you said above and beyond. You know, I understand, you know, meeting the standards of the state, but now that you said meeting, you know, above and beyond, that's what I was looking for. You know, I want to do extra to ensure that our students and our staff are all safe.
So do we have any costs associated with the ultraviolet?
Yes, and Mr. Lee, can you bring up the costs associated with those different scenarios?
Sure. For us to install, and even though it would cause further damage to the system, if we were to try to put MERV 13 filters into all of our systems that we could, we're looking at over $1.5 million, $1.5 million, and that would be annually. That would not be a one-time shot. That would be annually for those filters. If we consider a polarized system with UV lighting, the installation costs on that are around $1 million, $1.1 million, and then the filter changes for that are around $70,000 or $80,000 per year. The filter media is a lot easier to work with when you deal with the polarized and UV system. And we actually received some quotes in the last couple of days that gave us some good budgetary figures on that.
You know, just listening, we're going to have to rely more on the filtration rather than running the units and the windows open at the same time, because it defeats its purpose, you know, with the heating and the cooling kind of throws the systems off. So we're going to have to rely more on filters, you know, adequate filters.
Yes.
And Mr. Lee, I have another question. I know that we've had considerable trouble with our HVAC system at Laguna Acoma, and I don't know if it's the same as what is here at the schools here in Grants High School. I worry we've gone through so many changes in that HVAC system. Are the systems all the same now? And that we don't have to have special conditions for Laguna Acoma versus, say, Grants High School?
I didn't.
Mr. Lee?
Yeah, I didn't hear the question. I can't hear you all in the boardroom very well.
What is the situation at Laguna Acoma High School in relation to Grants High School?
The situation at Laguna Acoma High School is in that they run boilers. It's a return air situation. The highest level of filter without hurting the compressor equipment is the MERV 9. But with that, with the polarized UV scenario, we essentially solved those issues.
And,
go above and beyond what the state's requiring, because we're actually killing the virus, not just catching it in a filter that is going to be harmful to motors.
And I think if I could, Mr. Lee, the other part of her question was, we've had a series of issues out there with HVAC last year. Is that going to be an issue for us as we put the filters in this year?
It should not, as long as we take care of the equipment and put the right level of filter in that equipment. We're still doing a little bit of work on the control system out at Laguna Acoma. We still have some work to do. I tell you, we've got a lot of these systems around the district that are old and obsolete. We've spent the last year and a half, and our capital improvement funds have been devoted to HVAC systems, not only at Laguna, but all over the district. We've had some big time challenges.
Vance, since secondary is not allowed right now per the state, are we concentrating more on the elementary buildings?
Mr. Sandoval, yes, we are. Actually, not only in the area of the HVAC systems, but we're also focusing in the area of paper towel, toilet paper dispensers, soap dispensers, sanitizing, hand sanitizer dispensers, and we're focusing directly on our elementary schools in all of those areas, as well as the shielding and the social and the distancing of desks. And we've really focused on that. Mr. Widener, Mr. Eisenbard, Mr. Sanchez, and I are going to have those discussions here as soon as we need to focus on the elementary first, and then we'll dive into the high schools and figure out the plan for that.
Perfect, thanks. And we did see some slides a while back where you had the desks, spread out 6 feet. Looked good.
Mr. Perez,
Yes.
Vance, do you have a spreadsheet that lists each of the 11 schools and then describes their HVAC unit?
Mr. President, members of the board, I do not have a spreadsheet. I actually have a list of by school what systems they have.
Okay,
We do have specific units within our school dude software, our work order software.
Do you have in that list, do you have an age of each of their HVAC systems?
We have that within our preventative maintenance plan within our school dude system for the most part. We've changed some systems out, and I don't know that those are all added in there, but we do have those as a part of our preventative maintenance plan.
Do you have in that list a column that would indicate the MERV level that that system generates?
We can generate that based on the unit that is there. I would have to check back and see what level. Right now we put MERV 8 filters in everything. We have not gone to the step of what level of filter that it could handle.
So, yeah, just a couple more things and some more questions to that. You mentioned the ultraviolet system as it's a separate, better solution that I heard you speak of. Let me go, I'm just trying to, I'm creating a spreadsheet for myself here. The next column would be on October 16th. Will we be able to state what each of these schools' HVAC system would be upgraded to by October 16th?
I do not know the answer to that, as the lead time on some of these filters, depending on the level of filter, how quickly we could get those in. So to be honest with you, I don't know that we could do that. I don't know that we couldn't do that, honestly.
I'd like to add to that. in our checklist, it's due way before October 16th. So we have to submit that in the next day or two to the state, which brings the state to our district, and we would go through the process to get the approval that our systems, our buildings, our facilities, our HVAC systems are good to go. So that would be, we'd have to do that well before the 16th.
Next week.
Yep.
So let's still keep to the 16th. Basically, what we're saying is that if the state comes in, they will review the work that we've done, our progress to that date on the HVAC systems of each of the 11 schools. And they would then determine whether we've met their requirements for safety and health. And we would probably continue with a long-range plan further along with that. What I think all of us need to recognize is that it's going to be extremely difficult for us to get to MERV 13. And that's statewide and nationwide. And the cost is exorbitant. Nevertheless, it'd be good for us to know, and that's why I asked the question of what were the current levels of the units at each of these schools, so that we know that by October 16th, will you indicate whether or not you have made any improvements to that school's HVAC system by then, or whether or not there's a need to continue with additional time to improve the system or leave it the same. Right now, we don't. You mentioned you had several schools that were at MERV 8 and 9, but that didn't mean all of the schools. And what Vance was very helpful with is saying that a lot of our systems range in terms of their age, and so we're challenged by that too. Some of them are pretty old, and they're different kinds of systems. Furthermore, you've got some schools that have the ability to draw in outside air as compared to other schools who may not be able to draw in outside air. Because I think one of the alternatives or solutions that the state said is that you may not be able to get to MERV 13, but are there some other ways in which you can increase the circulation of air so that you can try to reduce down the staleness of the air in those classrooms, and that is of concern. I think there you got. I'm trying to think back with some of my walk through the schools whether or not all the classrooms can be open from the exterior, and of course in the wintertime you're not going to be able to do that. So there's some a little more complication that Vance is trying to work through. He's trying to figure out exactly what is possible to satisfy our circumstances here. When it comes to the ultraviolet, that I understand my research is a strong possibility, and but the cost is going to be enormous. So do we have the budget to do that? And when would we get it done? And which of the schools would we do that with? Would we retrofit all the schools to ensure they can do ultraviolet? Don't know, because I think it's an exciting opportunity. We just need to figure out whether or not it's doable in the near future. We've got 36 days left in this semester. And we're trying to resolve the issue of whether or not we bring back kids into these buildings in a safe setting. And that's what Max and Mr. Pettis and Mr. Lee and the state will consider in a short time. As he said, they will check over our list. They will review the status of our of our systems, and they will indicate whether or not that we were able to satisfy their requirements. And their requirements have been loosened a bit, but I'm still not sure of the quality of the systems in each of the 11. That's why I said, do you have a list? Do you have a spreadsheet that we can look at so that when we get to the 16th, we can see all of them? So I'm just rambling on, but I'm quite concerned about trying to understand the scope of the problem, school by school, HVAC system by HVAC system, how much work we have to do, how much it's going to cost, when will it get done? And the public and the staff and the students will want to be reassured, not just the board, but the public will want to be assured that when their kids come back, that the HVAC systems are going to function effectively.
If I can, Mr. President, I'd like
Yes,
to.
please.
I don't want anyone, including especially the board, to think that I'm trying to sell one side or the other, but I want to clarify a few things.
Sure.
One of the things is our reentry plan has been approved by the state. With the parts that we're talking about, as far as turning in the checklist and having an on-site visit, that's a normal part of the process that all the other districts that are entering hybrid are going through. So that's just a typical part of the process. Also like to clarify that it is to my best knowledge that the state has no longer requiring the MERV 13 because they realized all the issues that's going to cause. And as I mentioned earlier, it would create a worse air quality situation than it would a better air quality situation. Also, the MERV 9s are acceptable as far as I know. We have MERV 8s in a lot of places. Those should be shifted up to MERV 9s in a very short time. That's not a major task and it's not a relatively major expense. Now, when we talk about ultraviolet option, I want everybody to understand that's not a short-term kind of thing. That's going to take some time for purchasing, for installing, that kind of thing. So there is no way possible that will be done before this second quarter, or maybe even by the third quarter. So that's just something that we wanted to share that we're working towards. But in the meantime, we would meet, if the choice is to bring students back, we would meet all the requirements of the filtration systems with the work that we're doing now. And they will be, in our best of our knowledge, doing the checklist. I think administrators would agree with me that we that have worked on this is that we would meet the requirements of the state in every one of the areas. I would be surprised if we didn't. But that's where I just wanted to point those few things out. And once again, I'm not selling one option or the other. And then one other thing, I wanted to follow up on Dion's original question. I think there was two. One was about the air filtration, and the other part of that was on the PPE. And if I can, Mr. President, I'd like to share a little bit on that side of things.
Please. Very good.
Mr. Maldonado.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, board members. As reported earlier, we spent a significant amount of money on preparing our personal protective equipment and making sure that all schools, not just the elementaries, were properly prepared to welcome students back at any given time. We also put significant effort into making sure that we had enough supplies for staff to maintain their safety. This includes masks that are both cloth and disposable masks for both staff and for students. We have a minimum of 2 cloth masks for every student. These are washable masks that they can reuse. We also have invested heavily in making sure we stocked up on the disposable masks, the gloves, to provide to our cooks and others who want gloves, the custodians. We have a well-stocked warehouse of these items ready to distribute when we need to. We've also made sure that we've maintained open communication with a minimum of 3 vendors who can provide us with these items without delay so that we're not relying, waiting weeks or months for supplies. For example, I just ordered 50,000 masks and they came in 3 days. So we're keeping those supply lines open to make sure that we have enough for everybody. We've also invested heavily in the disinfecting equipment for the custodians and for staff members to be able to use. As Mr. Lee alluded to, we also invested heavily in the soap dispensers and those items as well. And we have gallons and gallons of hand sanitizer waiting for us. So I'm very confident that we are well stocked and well prepared to carry us through a minimum of the remainder of the semester.
Thank you, Mr. Maldonado.
Mr. President, I have one more question concerning the schools, Mr. Lee, because Cebolleta is a very old school and they use buildings. They're not on one system that filtrates through all of them. There's outside classrooms. And then I know that Cabero is a new school and maybe their HVAC system is prepared, even though Cebolleta has a small number of students. Where are we with making sure that those older buildings are equipped?
Ms. Daly, members of the board, yeah, we have, Cebolleta is not the only school that has many different systems. We have 2 or 3 others. Mount Taylor and Mesa View, for instance, run 2 separate kinds of mechanical systems, and we have to treat those differently. And really, the way that we treat them differently isn't necessarily the system that it's running, but it's the kind of return air scenario that it requires or that it runs, because that's where you have the problem with the level of filter, because it's trying to push the return air that's coming from the classroom back through the unit, and that's where we have the problem. That's where the problem lies. So really, we look at them: is it an outside air? Is it being supplied air from the outside, or is it being supplied air partially from return air from the classroom that it came from? That's where we have to look at that system and make the determination how we approach that, whether through upgraded filtering or through another system such as polarized and UV.
So is Cebolleta equipped to, are you telling me they're equipped to go with hybrid?
Is Cebolleta,
Is Cebolleta equipped to go hybrid and Cabero?
Oh, yeah. As much as anyone else, yes.
Doesn't make me feel safe.
no guarantees. Huh?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Can I say a few words before we? President, Dr. Orsham would like to say a few words. You know, we've learned how to get around in the new world that we're living in. And we're now going to all the stores around the area, big box stores, as well as our local stores. And we've learned to take care of ourselves and our families by following social distancing, wearing masks, also washing our hands and doing what state regulations are. And but today I feel like we're more comfortable going out there. Now we're going to restaurants to eat. Now we're moving out and about more freely. And now we're headed out to the lake. We're headed out to the mountains, you know, and still we're practicing the same thing: social distancing, wearing our masks, washing our hands. And like I said earlier, we've learned how to take care of ourselves and our families. And I think that our folks in our community have learned these things also, you know. And in the schools, I think that we have protocols that are better than what's out there in the public. on the safety part of our students as well as our teachers. So, you know, with that, I just have some concerns about our pre-K and the sixth grade, that their education is not there. So, you know, my feeling is always face-to-face is the best education for our students. You know, and not just that, our students are going through issues socially, emotionally, and behavioral. And one of the biggest keys that I've seen when I was going to school and my kids went to school, they had their friends. And these students need each other. They need their friends, you know, and I just want to say that again, that the students really need each other to succeed. And I don't feel like they're succeeding right now. I did get a couple of calls from some of our local governments. State Representative Mr. Garcia was concerned about pre-K and sixth grade, concerned about the grades and the absentees that was brought up by Mr. Sandoval. And, you know, he also believes that our students need face-to-face education, and he supports that we open up. I also got a call from Mayor Hicks. His comment was to wait until the elections were over to see which way things move. But he did support the decision that we would make tonight. And I just wanted to say that before we take this to a vote. And I just want everybody to understand, and I understand all the needs of the teachers. I understand the needs of our kids, but the kids need each other. They really do. And I know that there's going to be some, and I don't know if I should say this, but I'm just an open type of guy. You know, I know there's going to be some teachers mad at us. And there's probably going to be some teachers that will want to quit. And we don't want to see you do that, you know. You know, we're concerned about our students. We're not concerned about us and how we're doing. And, you know, but what about these little guys? You know, these little guys are at home. You know, the older kids are taking care of the little kids because the parents are working, like Mr. Sandoval brought up. You know, I just feel that we need to make a decision, not for us, not for teachers, but we need to make a decision for our students. Thank you, Dr. Guy, Superintendent Perez.
Mr. Perez.
So, Mr. President, members of the board, we've presented, we're always open for questions. The only thing I'd like to add is whatever the decision is, this is not like we've completed a task. We're just beginning our task. And we are going to, whatever the decision is, continue to refine, continue to work on either getting better with the virtual, getting better with the hybrid, learning more, supporting each other more, and getting through this together. So with that, Mr. President, I bring it to the board for your vote.
Okay, board members, are you ready? Let me kind of review for you so that you know what we can do. There are two options. The option A, which is 100% virtual learning throughout the remainder of the semester, with the parent option to remain virtual. Or the option B, hybrid 50% in person for pre-K to sixth grade throughout the remainder of the semester, with parent options to remain virtual. Or if there's some other possibility, then that would be something that we would wish to entertain. So we are ready to accept a motion and a second from a board member.
Hey, I'd like to make the motion. We go for option B, the hybrid model, and the kids come back and.
Motion was made by Richard Jones to do option B. Is there a second? There's a second by, hold on a second. Second by Dion Sandoval to go to option B. And we can have a final discussion amongst board members. Is there anyone wish to speak for the motion?
I would, Mr. President, and I think it's novice that we make these decisions in the safety of our homes where we're not exposed to anything. We sit here with not a full boardroom. We sit here, some of us go to work with an empty classroom, and we're able to make those decisions on behalf of the kids. And I'm not saying that I am concerned because I have grandchildren that are not faring well, even in the Albuquerque Public Schools, that they're not faring well. But when I make a decision, it's going to be in the best interest of all of the community. And whether we do separate discussions on daycare, it's going to be a challenge. If some kids are coming back, then we're only going to need daycare for Monday and Thursday. And so that's going to be a challenge. So no matter which way we go, I think that we need to be prepared should, I guess the question is should we go hybrid and we get a spike in our school district, then who do the parents hold accountable for that? And I know that there's also the decision, they can say virtual. And with, you know, that they're protecting their own children and their livelihood. And so I see Mr. Ortiz's concerns, and I agree with them. But like I said, I can make this decision in the safety of my home, or here in the boardroom making a mask, wearing a mask. So I no, Richard, this is my speech.
No, we're breaking protocol here. The discussion was before. I mean, I don't keep visiting. I'm just saying, but once you have a second, it needs to go to the vote. If you don't
No,
want to vote, you don't have to.
It does not. We are allowed to have discussion before we do that. I asked,
after the first, not the
I
second.
asked our attorney whether or
He's
not
right.
after the first and seconded, then we can have a brief discussion, and then we can go to a vote.
Okay, that's fine. It's after the first, but that's fine. Go ahead. My apologies for interrupting.
I think, well, those are just my concerns. And I know that our group here has worked hard. I would have still liked to have seen some current data. I have data from the areas that there's still active cases on both pueblos. We still have executive orders in place. And whether we take the vote here or not, they don't agree, it would be a moot point at that time. They could disallow our buses onto the different reservations. And so, like I said, we can make this decision here, and we will vote, but I just want to make sure that we do it in earnest and that we're willing to prepare ourselves to submit ourselves to those same conditions that we're going to submit our children to and our teachers. Thank you.
Any final comments from other board members in support of the motion? I'll make a final comment. I have some reservations about doing this. I would prefer a virtual learning for a while. I'm not sure. I'm not clear on the status of the HVAC system, the air filtration. That's why I asked a lot of questions. And I think that it's still in our best interest to delay the consideration of going to in-person. And that is something that we need to be concerned about, is the extent to which we are going to ensure that the HVAC system are going to do what we want it to do. The HVAC system is supposed to prevent students and teachers from being exposed and being infected by the COVID virus. That said, are there any other comments to be made? Seeing none, I call for the motion. Roll call vote. Let's start with Emily. Would you call off the names, and we will each give our vote for the motion to go to option B, hybrid 50%.
Yes, sir. Ron Ortiz,
Yes.
Emily Hunt Daly,
Nay.
Dion Sandoval,
Yes.
Richard Jones,
Yes.
Guyer Shambo,
No. The motion passes. Thank you very much. Board members? Vance, Mr. Pettis?
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board. Thank you all for all of the thoughtful work, consideration, and the tough decisions. If I can, Mr. President, I'd like to move on through the agenda.
Please.
And second action item is a consideration of approval for agreement with FBT Architects for Blue Water Elementary School. I do recommend that we approve this agreement with these architects.
So move.
Motion has been made by Dion Sandoval. Is there a second?
I'll second, Dr. Gray.
Ron Ortiz to approve the agreement with FBT Architects for Blue Water Elementary School. As presented. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion against? Motion carries. Mr. Pettis, consent agenda.
Mr. President, Board, the next item is a consent agenda. And I do recommend that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
So moved, Mr. President.
Motion is made by Emily Hunt Daly. Is there a second?
I'll go ahead and second, Dr. Gray.
Second by Ron Ortiz to approve the consent agenda items as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, motion carries. Mr. Pettis, Superintendent's report.
Yes, sir, Mr. President, Board. So I think we probably said a lot about the reentry topic the last few weeks and tonight. And I'd just like to reiterate that our administration is committed to continuing to work on all aspects of this and working with our school site, teachers, principals, staff, students, and making things the best that we possibly can with everything that we have. Our world is not in a way that any of us would have chosen, but we are going to continue to work hard and improving everything that we do every day. I do want to also reiterate that I will be bringing back to the board some information so that we can make a decision before the Christmas break and as far as what's going to happen in January. Of course, there's a chance that things could happen between when we go on a Christmas break and when we return. We don't know what the scope of the land is going to be at that time. We don't know what the environment's going to be. We don't know the number of cases that we will be facing at that time. But I'm hoping that we will be in good order to make a decision before the break so that teachers know they can plan, principals, schools can plan over the break and not be wondering what the first days of school will be like in January. So with that, that's what I have for you this evening. Thank you, Mr. President, Board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pettis. What you see, board members, are the announcements. October 12th, Indigenous Peoples Day, Wednesday, our virtual meeting for NMSBA, October 23, Parent-Teacher Conference, October 26th, no school, PD for teachers, November 11th, Veterans Day. Is there a motion for adjournment?
So move.
So moved by Dion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Melly Hunt Daly to adjourn the board meeting tonight. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those against? Motion carries at 7:25 p.m. Thank you very much. Thank you, audience. You may all leave the meeting.